Week 12 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few quarterbacks I looked at off the wire this week. The first quarterback, Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. So very surprising. Bo Nix still out there in 52% of fantasy leagues, but obviously coming off a 300-yard game and 4 touchdowns. He's going to be owned in pretty much 70% or more leagues after this week. So Bo Nix, the last few games, he's gone out there and he's putting up numbers. And Week 12, a great matchup at the Vegas Raiders that give up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. Week 9, at Baltimore, 223 pass yards, interceptions, 36 rush yards, a catch, 2 yards, and a touchdown catch. Week 10 at Kansas City, 215 pass yards, 2 touchdowns in that ball game. In Week 11, like I said, versus the Falcons, he put on a show, 307 pass yards, 4 touchdowns. So Bo Nix, he's been a versatile quarterback all season long. He's shown some rushing ability, and now he's really locked in throwing the football. And guys like little Jordan Humphrey have stepped up. Cortland Sutton's been solid all season long. And we even saw Javonte Williams have a receiving touchdown in Week 11's ball game. So right now, Nix, he's had good matchups. He's made the most of his opportunities. And this Denver Bronco team, they're surprising on the year at 6-5. So right now, well, he's out there in 52% of fantasy league, surprisingly. Definitely a quarterback teared off the wire this week. Next quarterback Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. Richardson out there in 53% of fantasy leagues, and now he's the starter for the remainder of the season. After we thought Joe Flacco was going to be the starter for the whole season, and then they just went back to Richardson since Indianapolis has been struggling mightily over the last month of the season. So the last few games before the return in Week 11, Week 7 versus Miami, 129 pass yards, 56 rush yards, a fumble loss. Week 8 at Houston, 175 pass yards, touchdown, interception, 45 rush yards, a fumble loss. And then Week 11 back as the starter, 272 passing versus the Jets, a touchdown, 32 rush yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and a fumble loss. So Anthony Richardson, we know he's going to give you rushing yards anywhere from 5-10 points weekly minimum for fantasy owners. But him staying in the pocket, making good plays and good throws have been a problem for him so far early in his NFL career. But he looked good at the New York Jets, even though every team is going up and down versus this New York Jet team over the last few weeks here. But like I said, he won the game for Indianapolis, a game-winning drive with under a minute left. And he looked good in the pocket, and they still got good weapons, obviously. Josh Downs, solid. Jonathan Taylor, obviously. Donnie Mitchell made a few plays in the victory. So I think Anthony Richardson, after getting benched and watching some of the game and trying to adjust his game, he possibly could be a decent pickup. And like I said, he was a 5th, 6th rounder in most fantasy leagues coming into the year. And right now, he's an ad off the wire. The next quarterback, Drake May of the New England Patriots. A lot of young quarterbacks this time of the year getting opportunity and starting to play better and put up points. So May available right now in 86% of fantasy leagues is Drake May. And he's gone out there and he's competed weekly for this Patriot team of fantasy owners. I know it's not a lot of wins for New England with Drake May in their quarterback. Going out there and he's putting up some decent points. Week 9 at Tennessee, 206 pass yards, a touchdown, 95 rush yards, a fumble loss, 2 interceptions. Week 10 at Chicago, 184 pass yards, a touchdown, interception, 24 rush yards. In Week 11 versus the Rams in a tight game where they almost made the comeback, 282 passing, 2 touchdowns, interception, 27 rush yards, and a fumble loss. So the turnover is obviously going to be a problem here for Drake May. But like I said, I think he could go out there. I think he could help fantasy owners. He could run the football a little bit. He's got a good arm. And this New England Patriot team, they're going to be trailing a lot in ball games this season where they got to throw the football a whole lot. So Drake May, a decent ad this week, and he's got a decent matchup coming up in Miami where we just saw Gardner Minshew go over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns versus them in Week 11's ball game. And the final quarterback I looked at off the wire is Jameis Winston in the Cleveland Browns. So Jameis Winston, I know he's the old school type of gunslinger. He's just going to throw it up for grabs most times than not, and it's either going to be an interception or a touchdown. But Jameis, he's going to put up points some weeks, and he's a quarterback we've seen in his career going back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 30 touchdown, 30 interception season, and we saw a 5,000-yard season under his belt as well. So Week 8 versus Baltimore, 334 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 rush yards, a fumble loss. Week 9, tough game versus a good defense in the Chargers, 235 passing, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, 27 rush yards. And then after the bye, it is one of his former teams at the Saints, 395 pass yards in that ball game, 2 touchdowns, 8 rush yards, and a 2-point conversion. So they got some decent weapons. Is this Cleveland Brown team? Jerry Jeudy, he's been a good fit this season. Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. So there's definitely weapons and definitely guys that could stretch the field and help Jameis Winston and this Brown team at least move the football down the field and him get fantasy points. So right now, coming up in Week 12, definitely a tough matchup on Thursday night versus Pittsburgh. But usually those are high-scoring games. Not a lot of defense is played. So if you're in a pinch in 2-quarterback with deep leagues, Winston out there right now in 88% of fantasy leagues. That's a few quarterbacks I looked at off the wire for Week 12 of the fantasy football season.